70% of our planet is covered in oceans. So in fact you could call it planet ocean. And the oceans play a really important role in the life forms, the ecosystems. Actually, life really started in the oceans and is really abundant. So without the oceans, life would be very different. This is also true for taking up CO2. The oceans have taken up vast amounts of CO2 in the past decades, past century. And without this, the amount of CO2 right now would be up to 600 ppm. And 600 ppm would equal a temperature rise of about 3.5 degrees. So at present, the Earth would be 3.5 degrees warmer. And not just end of the century, but right now. So keeping in mind that the oceans play such an important role in the whole carbon cycle, what can we do about this? And what can we learn from the oceans in how to deal with the climate crisis? I'd like to give two examples. The first one is Sargassum. Sargassum is a free-floating seaweed that is really abundant in the Atlantic Ocean. And it's well known for its existence in the Sargasso Sea. And the Sargasso Sea is a sea area in the Atlantic Ocean, which is really vital for all kinds of ecosystems. And it's well known for the fact that the European eel is breeding there. So baby eels get born in the Sargasso Sea. They drift all the way to Europe and live there for their whole life. And when they're mature and they want to breed, they swim all the way back to the Sargasso Sea. Now in this Sargasso Sea, the seaweed that's floating there, when it dies, it sinks to the ocean floor and creating a sort of a carbon sink there. So what happens in the past decade is that this same Sargasso weed is also drifting further south in a belt from Africa to the Caribbean. And when it washes up on the coast due to the ocean currents and the winds, they start to rot. And this rotting sargassum releases vast amounts of CO2, but not just CO2, and also methane. And methane, as we know, is a really strong climate gas. So this causes a lot of problems. What we did with the Sargasso project we've just been running is investigating what are the possibilities to deal with this washing up of Sargasso weed. The second example I'd like to give is coastal wetlands. So everywhere across the planet where the oceans meet land, you will find coastal wetlands. And some of these coastal wetlands have a very delicate ecosystem. Mangrove, seagrass, coral reef, etc., mudflats, and they have the capacity to store vast amounts of CO2, of carbon, not just in the plants that grow there and in the coral reefs, but also in the sediment. And so in some places thick layers of sediment store huge quantities of carbon. Now, according to Drawdown, only 20% of the coastal wetlands across the planet, along the planet, are protected now. So in all, the oceans face huge challenges and coastal wetlands. And I would say, let's now work together with these unique ecosystems to overcome the climate crisis.